Have you ever been driving on the highway when a brand new truck suddenly pulls up next to you? Not just any truck. I'm talking about the kind that looks like it belongs in a luxury showroom. Huge wheels, chrome everywhere, perfect paint, leather seats, giant screens inside the dashboard. The kind of vehicle that makes you think, that thing probably costs a fortune. And the truth is, it probably does. My name is Bryony, and I spend way too much time thinking about money and why people make the financial decisions they do. Many of these trucks cost $60,000, $70,000, sometimes even $90,000 or more. That's more than what some people used to pay for their entire house just a few decades ago. But here's the strange part. When you look at the person driving it, they usually look like a normal person. Not a celebrity, not a millionaire, not someone who looks like they just sold a tech company. Most of the time, it's someone with a regular job, maybe a construction worker, maybe an office employee, maybe a teacher or a small business owner. So the question naturally comes up, how are so many regular people driving vehicles that cost this much? Because if you actually run the numbers, these cars shouldn't be affordable for most households, and yet they're everywhere. Parking lots are full of expensive SUVs. Neighborhood driveways have giant pickup trucks. Dealerships keep selling millions of new vehicles every year, which raises a fascinating question. Are people secretly making way more money than we think? Or is something else happening behind the scenes? Because the truth is, there is something happening behind the scenes. And once you understand it, the whole situation suddenly makes a lot more sense. The cost of cars has quietly exploded. Let's start with a simple fact that many people don't realize. Car prices have increased dramatically over the last couple of decades. Years ago, buying a new car might cost somewhere around $20,000 or $25,000. Today, the average new vehicle price in many markets has climbed above $45,000, and trucks or SUVs often cost far more than that. In fact, some of the most popular pickup trucks now regularly sell for $70,000 or more, depending on the trim level. Luxury features that used to be optional are now common. Large touchscreens, advanced safety systems, premium sound systems, heated seats, cameras everywhere. Modern vehicles are basically computers on wheels, and all of that technology makes them more expensive. But here's the thing. Even though prices have gone up dramatically, people didn't suddenly start earning twice as much money. Wages have increased in many places, but nowhere near enough to match the explosion in vehicle prices. So again, we're back to the same question. How are people paying for them? The answer starts with something surprisingly simple, the monthly payment trick. When most people walk into a dealership today, the conversation usually doesn't begin with the total price of the vehicle. Instead, the salesperson asks a different question. They might say something like, "What kind of monthly payment are you comfortable with?" At first, that sounds helpful. Most people budget their lives in monthly terms. Rent is monthly, phone bills are monthly, streaming services are monthly, so thinking about a car payment the same way feels natural. But this one small shift changes everything, because when buyers stop focusing on the total price and start focusing only on the monthly payment, it becomes much easier to justify expensive vehicles. Let's look at a simple example. Imagine someone wants to buy a truck that costs $60,000. If they tried to pay it off in 4 years, the monthly payment might be around $1,400. For many people, that number feels impossible. But now, imagine the dealership offers a longer loan. Instead of 4 years, they stretch the loan to 7 years. Suddenly, the monthly payment might drop to around $850. That still sounds expensive, but compared to $1,400, it suddenly feels manageable. The vehicle didn't get cheaper, nothing about the truck changed, but the payment looks smaller. And that's often enough to make the deal happen. The rise of long car loans. Decades ago, car loans were usually short. 3 years was common, 4 years was considered long. But today, the situation is very different. 5-year loans are normal, 6-year loans are extremely common, 7-year loans are everywhere. Some lenders are even offering 8-year car loans. That means people can be making payments on the same vehicle for nearly a decade. From the dealership's perspective, this is perfect. Longer loans mean lower monthly payments. Lower payments mean more people qualify. More people qualifying means more vehicles sold. But from a financial perspective, long loans come with a serious downside. The longer the loan lasts, the more interest you pay, and the longer you're stuck making payments on something that's losing value every year. Cars lose value fast. Unlike houses or investments, cars almost always lose value over time. The moment you drive a new car off the lot, it can lose 10 to 20% of its value instantly. Within a few years, that value can drop dramatically. By the time a vehicle is 7 or 8 years old, it might be worth only a small fraction of what it originally cost. But if someone takes a 7-year loan, they could still be making payments even when the car is worth far less than the remaining loan balance. This situation is called negative equity, and it's one of the biggest financial traps in modern car buying. Because once someone is stuck in negative equity, getting out becomes very difficult. But negative equity doesn't just happen accidentally. In many cases, it becomes part of a cycle that keeps people buying new cars again and again. And that cycle starts with something that dealerships encourage all the time: trading in your car for a newer one. The trade-in game. Here's a common situation. Someone buys a new car with a long loan. After 3 or 4 years, they decide they want something newer. Maybe they saw a new model they like. Maybe they just want something different. So they go back to the dealership. But there's a problem. They still owe money on the current loan. And because cars lose value quickly, the vehicle might now be worth less than what they still owe. Instead of paying the difference, dealerships often offer a different solution. They simply roll the remaining debt into the next loan. That means the buyer is now financing the new car plus the leftover balance from the previous car. This creates a cycle where people can end up paying for multiple cars at the same time, even though they only own one. From the outside, it looks like someone upgrades their car every few years, but financially, they may be carrying debt from several vehicles at once. And that's only part of the story, because there's another powerful force pushing people toward more expensive cars, and that force has nothing to do with math. It has everything to do with psychology. Even though car prices have skyrocketed over the past couple of decades, millions of people are still buying extremely expensive vehicles. And the biggest reason that happens is because of one simple shift in focus. Instead of looking at the total price, buyers are encouraged to look only at the monthly payment. But the monthly payment trick is only the beginning, because there's another powerful force at work here, and it has nothing to do with interest rates or loan terms. It has everything to do with human psychology. Car companies don't just sell transportation anymore, they sell identity. Cars are no longer just transportation. If you think about it logically, a car has one basic job. It gets you from point A to point B. That's it. A reliable $10,000 used car can perform that job just as well as a $70,000 truck. Both will take you to work, both will take you to the grocery store, both will take you across town. But despite that reality, people are willing to spend enormous amounts of money on vehicles. Why? Because cars stopped being just transportation a long time ago. Today, cars are often treated like symbols of success. They communicate something about who you are, or at least who you want to appear to be. For example, luxury cars often signal wealth and status. Sports cars signal excitement and freedom. Large trucks often signal strength, toughness, and reliability. SUVs signal family, safety, and stability. These associations didn't happen by accident. They were carefully built over decades of advertising. The power of car advertising. Think about the last car commercial you saw. What did it show? Was it focused on financial responsibility? Did it talk about interest rates or depreciation? Of course not. Instead, most car commercials show something completely different. A truck climbing a rugged mountain road, a sports car racing down an empty coastal highway, a family SUV driving through beautiful scenery while smiling kids laugh in the back. The message is subtle but powerful. They're not just selling a vehicle, they're selling a lifestyle. They're selling a story, and that story usually sounds something like this. If you drive this car, you are this kind of person. You're adventurous, you're successful, you're confident, you're capable. This is incredibly powerful psychologically because humans naturally want to express their identity, and one of the easiest ways to signal identity is through the things we buy: clothes, phones, houses, and of course, cars. The status competition nobody talks about. There's another psychological factor at play here that many people don't notice, and that's social comparison. Humans naturally compare themselves to the people around them. If your neighbors drive expensive cars, it subtly changes what feels normal. Suddenly, driving an older car might make someone feel like they're falling behind, even if their car works perfectly, even if it's completely paid off. This creates something economists sometimes call a status competition. People don't just buy things because they need them.
They buy things because of how those things compare to what others have. For example,
Imagine someone living in a neighborhood where most driveways have brand new SUVs and trucks. Even if they were perfectly happy with their old car before, the constant exposure to newer vehicles can slowly change their perception. After a while, upgrading starts to feel almost necessary, not because the old car stopped working, but because the standard around them changed. And car companies understand this dynamic very well. That's one reason new models are released so frequently. Each new model year adds small design changes, new technology, or updated features, just enough to make last year's model feel slightly outdated. The upgrade culture. Modern consumer culture encourages something called the upgrade cycle. Phones get upgraded every few years, computers get upgraded regularly, and cars have followed the same pattern. In the past, many people kept vehicles for 10 years or longer. Today, many people trade in their car after just 3 to 5 years, not because the car stopped working, but because something newer and more exciting appeared. New technology, new styling, new features. And when people keep upgrading vehicles before the loan is even paid off, that's when financial problems start to build up. Because every upgrade usually comes with a larger loan. And that's how some people slowly end up with extremely expensive car payments. The dealership experience. Another reason expensive cars feel easier to buy is the way dealerships structure the buying process. If you've ever visited a dealership, you might notice something interesting. The conversation rarely focuses on the full price of the vehicle. Instead, the discussion often revolves around questions like, how much do you want your monthly payment to be? What kind of down payment are you thinking about? Do you have a vehicle to trade in? Each of these questions shifts attention away from the total cost and toward short-term affordability. Let's say someone wants a vehicle but feels nervous about the price. The salesperson has several tools available to make the deal feel easier. They can extend the loan term. They can adjust the down payment. They can include the trade-in value. They can offer financing packages. Each adjustment changes the monthly payment slightly, and eventually the buyer sees a number that feels manageable. At that moment, the deal often feels like a success, but the real financial picture can be very different because the monthly payment hides the long-term cost. Emotional decision-making. One of the most important things to understand about large purchases is that they're rarely purely logical. Humans like to think we make decisions based on careful math, but in reality, emotions often play a bigger role. A person might walk into a dealership simply planning to look around, but once they sit inside a brand new vehicle, something changes. The seats feel comfortable. The technology looks impressive. The new car smell fills the air. Suddenly, the experience becomes emotional. It feels exciting. It feels rewarding. And the idea of leaving without the car can start to feel disappointing. At that point, the buyer isn't just evaluating numbers anymore. They're imagining how it will feel to drive the car home. They're picturing their friends seeing it. They're imagining the pride of owning something new. This emotional shift is incredibly powerful, because once someone emotionally commits to wanting something, they become much more flexible about the price. The reward yourself mindset. There's another message that appears frequently in advertising. It's the idea that people deserve something nice. After working hard all week, after dealing with stress, after achieving a milestone, people are told they should reward themselves. And there's nothing wrong with enjoying the fruits of hard work. But when this mindset combines with easy financing, it can lead to very expensive decisions. Because the reward isn't just a one-time purchase, it becomes a multi-year financial commitment. And once the excitement of the purchase fades, the payment remains, month after month, year after year. The illusion of affordability. All of these factors together create something powerful, the illusion that expensive vehicles are more affordable than they really are. Long loan terms make payments look smaller. Marketing makes the purchase feel emotional and exciting, and social pressure can make upgrading seem normal. But buying the car is only the beginning, because once someone drives that vehicle off the lot, the real costs of ownership begin to show up, and many of those costs are far bigger than most buyers expect. When people think about buying a car, they usually focus on one number, the monthly payment. But that payment is only one piece of the puzzle. Owning a vehicle also comes with several ongoing expenses that can quietly add up over time. Fuel, insurance, maintenance, repairs, depreciation. Individually, these costs may not seem overwhelming, but when you add them together over several years, the numbers can become surprisingly large. Let's start with one of the most obvious costs, fuel.
The fuel cost that never stops. Large trucks and SUVs have become incredibly popular in recent years, and while they offer space, power, and comfort, they often consume far more fuel than smaller vehicles. A large pickup truck might average around 15 to 20 miles per gallon in real-world driving. That means every mile driven requires more fuel compared to a smaller sedan or compact car. Now imagine someone with a normal daily commute. Maybe they drive 30 miles per day between work, errands, and other activities. That's roughly 900 miles per month. Depending on fuel efficiency and gas prices, the monthly fuel cost could easily reach $250 to $400 or more. For people who drive longer distances, the number can climb even higher. Over the course of a year, fuel alone could cost several $1,000s. And over the life of a long car loan, those fuel expenses can add up to tens of thousands of dollars. But fuel is only the beginning, because another major expense shows up almost immediately after someone buys a new vehicle: insurance. The insurance surprise. Insurance is one of the most underestimated costs of owning an expensive car. Many buyers don't realize how much insurance can change when they upgrade vehicles. Insurance companies calculate premiums based on several factors: the value of the vehicle, repair costs, safety features, and the likelihood of theft or accidents. When someone buys a high-value vehicle, insurance companies often require more extensive coverage. That usually includes collision coverage, comprehensive coverage, higher liability protection. All of this can significantly increase monthly insurance costs. For many drivers, insurance on a new vehicle can easily exceed $150 to $250 per month. In some cases, it may be even higher. Now imagine a household with two expensive vehicles. Insurance alone could cost $400 to $500 per month. That's thousands of dollars every year just to maintain coverage. And unlike the loan, insurance never disappears as long as the car is being driven. Maintenance, the cost of keeping things running. Modern vehicles are incredibly advanced machines. They contain complex electronics, sensors, cameras, computers, and specialized parts. All of that technology makes driving safer and more comfortable, but it also makes maintenance more expensive. Even basic services can cost more than many people expect. Oil changes for large trucks can cost significantly more than those for smaller cars. Brake replacements on modern vehicles often involve advanced components. Tires for large SUVs or trucks can be extremely expensive. A single set of tires can easily cost $800 to $1,500, depending on the vehicle. And those tires eventually wear out. Brakes wear out too. Batteries need replacement. Filters, fluids, and other components all require regular service. None of these expenses happen all at once, but over several years they add up. The risk of repair. Another reality of car ownership is that eventually something breaks.
Even reliable vehicles require repairs over time, and modern vehicles often contain systems that are expensive to fix. A transmission repair can cost several $1,000s. Engine problems can be even more expensive. Electronic components can also fail. Sensors, cameras, infotainment systems. All of these parts can require professional repair or replacement. For people with large car loans and tight budgets, unexpected repairs can create serious financial stress. Sometimes those repairs end up going on credit cards or personal loans, which creates even more debt. The silent cost. Depreciation. But the biggest cost of owning a car is something many people rarely think about: depreciation. Depreciation simply means the vehicle loses value over time. Unlike a house or an investment, cars almost always decline in value as they age. And that decline often happens quickly. The moment a new car leaves the dealership, it may lose 10 to 20% of its value instantly. Within a few years, the value may drop dramatically. After 5 to 7 years, a vehicle might be worth only a fraction of its original price. This means that while someone is making large monthly payments, the asset they're paying for is steadily becoming less valuable. That's why cars are often described as depreciating assets. They provide usefulness and convenience, but they rarely build wealth. Putting the real numbers together. Let's imagine a realistic example to see how these costs add up. Suppose someone buys a vehicle for $55,000. Their loan payment might be around $800 per month. Over 7 years, those payments total about $67,000. Now let's add other costs. Insurance might average $200 per month. Over 7 years, that's roughly $16,800. Fuel might average $300 per month. Over 7 years, that becomes about $25,000. Maintenance and repairs, about $14,000.
That's more than $120,000 spent on transportation. And after those 7 years, the vehicle might be worth only $12,000 to $15,000. In other words, a huge amount of money was spent on something that steadily lost value. This doesn't mean owning a car is bad. Cars are essential for many people. They provide mobility, independence, and convenience. But it does highlight something important. Transportation can become one of the largest expenses in a household budget. Why people rarely do this math? If the numbers are this significant, you might wonder why more people don't calculate them before buying. The answer is surprisingly simple. Most people never see all the costs at the same time. The loan payment appears first. Insurance comes later. Fuel expenses appear gradually. Maintenance shows up occasionally. Because the costs arrive at different times, they rarely feel overwhelming all at once. But when you step back and add them together, the total can be eye-opening. The long-term impact. Spending large amounts on transportation doesn't just affect the present, it can also affect long-term financial goals. Money used for large car payments could otherwise be used for savings, investments, education, travel, homeownership. Every financial decision involves trade-offs. Choosing one thing often means giving up something else. And when transportation becomes extremely expensive, it can quietly reduce the amount of money available for other priorities. The real question. All of this leads to an important question. If expensive cars cost so much over time, why do so many people continue to buy them? Why does the cycle continue? The answer involves something deeper than math. It involves habits, expectations, and the structure of the car market itself. Because once someone enters the cycle of expensive car payments, getting out can be surprisingly difficult. We looked at how the monthly payment system makes vehicles feel more affordable. We explored the psychology behind car marketing and social comparison. And we also broke down the real cost of owning an expensive vehicle over time. But there's one final piece of the puzzle, and it explains why so many people end up repeating the same cycle again and again. It's something that financial experts often refer to as the car payment trap. Once someone enters this cycle, getting out can be surprisingly difficult. And that's why millions of people spend decades making car payments without ever really escaping them. The never-ending car payment. Imagine someone buys a new vehicle with a 6 or 7 year loan. At first, everything seems fine. They enjoy the new car, the monthly payment feels manageable, life goes on. But after 3 or 4 years, something interesting starts to happen. The excitement of the new car begins to fade. New models appear on the market, advertisements start showing updated designs, new technology, and better features. Suddenly, the vehicle that once felt exciting now feels a little outdated. And that's exactly when dealerships start offering attractive trade-in deals. They might say something like, "Your car still has great value. You can upgrade today with only a small change to your monthly payment. Why not drive something brand new?" For many buyers, this offer sounds appealing. After all, they've already been making payments for years. Upgrading feels like a reward. But there's a hidden problem. At this point, the original loan often isn't fully paid off yet. And because cars lose value over time, the remaining loan balance might still be higher than the car's current value. This situation is called negative equity. The negative equity cycle. When someone trades in a car with negative equity, the remaining balance doesn't disappear. Instead, that unpaid amount often gets added to the new loan. For example, imagine someone still owes $10,000 on their current car. When they trade it in, that $10,000 gets rolled into the loan for the next vehicle. Now the new loan is larger than the price of the new car itself, and the cycle continues. A few years later, the same situation may happen again. Another upgrade, another trade-in, another loan. Over time, some people end up financing multiple vehicles one after another without ever fully paying one off. From the outside, it might look like they simply enjoy driving new cars, but financially, they may be carrying thousands of dollars in leftover debt from previous vehicles. And that's how the car payment trap quietly grows. Why the system encourages this? It's important to understand that this system didn't happen by accident. The entire car market has slowly evolved around financing. Dealerships, lenders, and manufacturers all benefit when more vehicles are sold. And longer loans make it easier for more customers to qualify for more expensive vehicles. Lower monthly payments create the impression that the purchase is manageable. Frequent upgrades create repeat customers, and trade-ins help keep the cycle moving. Again, this doesn't mean anyone is doing something illegal or dishonest, but it does mean the system naturally encourages people to keep upgrading vehicles rather than keeping them for long periods.
The opportunity cost of car payments. There's another concept that rarely gets discussed during the car buying process. It's called opportunity cost. Opportunity cost simply means the value of what you give up when you choose one option instead of another. Every dollar spent on one thing is a dollar that can't be used somewhere else. For example, imagine someone spends $800 per month on a car payment. Over a year, that's $9,600. Over 7 years, that's more than $67,000. But the story doesn't end there. If that same $800 per month were invested instead, it could potentially grow over time. With consistent investing and compound growth, that money could become a significant amount in the future. This doesn't mean no one should ever spend money on cars.
Cars provide real value in terms of transportation and convenience, but it does highlight how large transportation expenses can affect long-term financial progress. The wealth mindset versus the consumption mindset. Many financial experts explain this difference using two simple mindsets. The consumption mindset focuses on buying things that provide enjoyment right now. The wealth mindset focuses on building assets that grow over time. Neither mindset is completely right or wrong. Everyone deserves to enjoy life. But problems arise when spending consistently exceeds what someone can comfortably afford. Expensive vehicles are a perfect example of this balance. They provide comfort, style, and enjoyment, but they also lose value over time. That means they rarely contribute to long-term financial growth. Understanding this difference can help people make more intentional decisions about how much they want to spend on transportation. A different way to think about cars. One alternative approach is surprisingly simple. Instead of always buying the newest vehicle possible, some people choose to focus on reliability and value. This might involve buying a vehicle that is a few years older instead of brand new. The biggest drop in value often happens during the first few years. Buying a slightly older vehicle allows someone else to absorb that initial depreciation. As long as the vehicle has been maintained well, it can still provide many years of reliable transportation. Another approach is simply keeping vehicles longer. Modern cars are built to last much longer than vehicles from previous generations. Many cars today can easily reach 200,000 miles or more with proper maintenance. By keeping a vehicle longer, owners avoid constantly restarting the loan cycle. Eventually, the car becomes fully paid off, and once there's no payment, transportation becomes dramatically cheaper. The power of a paid-off car. A paid-off car can be one of the most underrated financial advantages. Without a monthly payment, hundreds of dollars suddenly become available in the budget every month. That money can be used for many other goals: savings, investments, travel, emergency funds, education, home ownership. The difference between having a car payment and not having one can be surprisingly powerful over time. And many people discovered that once they experience life without a car payment, they prefer to keep it that way. Why this conversation matters. Cars are essential tools for modern life. They help people get to work. They connect families. They provide independence and freedom. But because they're so common, it's easy to overlook how much they affect our finances. For many households, transportation is one of the largest monthly expenses, and small changes in how people approach car purchases can create large financial differences over time. That's why understanding the system behind car financing is so valuable. It helps people see the bigger picture. The real mystery solved. So let's go back to the question we started with. How are so many regular people driving extremely expensive vehicles? The answer isn't hidden wealth. It's a combination of several factors working together. Long loan terms, monthly payment marketing, social pressure, frequent upgrades, and a financing system designed to make expensive purchases feel manageable. Individually, each factor seems small, but together they create a powerful cycle that keeps many people making car payments for years. The next time you see a brand new truck or luxury SUV driving down the road, you might see it a little differently. Instead of wondering how someone could afford it, you might understand the system that made the purchase possible. And maybe you'll also appreciate something else, a reliable car that's fully paid off. Because sometimes the most impressive financial move isn't driving the newest vehicle on the road. Sometimes it's simply driving something that lets you keep more of your money.